What is up, guys? Welcome in to yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. We had my guy on post-draft, and we talked about it, and you guys really enjoyed it. And my guy Jackson Groff is joining me. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show, at my guy at The Groff Show, correct?
Yeah, at The Groff Show, Jackson Groff on TikTok. No, man, it's always fun talking ball with you, man. I mean, we did radio together for a while. Yeah. We talked college football a little bit. We talked a little draft. And, now with what I'm doing currently, I lean more towards college football just because, too, like being in this business, when you're not working content, when you're not watching football, you're prepping football. So right now, I'm going through all the college football teams, but I always have a soft spot for the Cardinals. I mean, we've been lifelong Cardinals fans and covering this team. And you texted me, you're like, you watching the preseason game? I was like, yeah, I am. Because, I mean, dude, football is just here. I mean, it's something that we look forward to. Cardinals is something that I'm always going to follow. And, obviously got high hopes for this team this year. So I'm excited to talk to the Cardinals.
Yeah, man. We'll dive into all of it. But, yeah, it's interesting because, like, you are a college football guy. And I think I don't say this just to gas you up because we're pretty good friends. But I think you are one of the better college football guys. So, like, I wish, we did more college football on this. And when ASU shows up, I'll have you back on. However, we're both huge Cardinals guys, and we're talking about football. We're transiting into football. So, man, let's start here. I think the biggest story of the night was that dreaded Kyler Murray interception.
Yeah.
And it's so funny as the angles continue to kind of come out. Kyler, if you're talking about 7 for 8, no touchdowns, no interceptions, you're like, they did cut the ball loose downfield. They found Marvin Harrison Jr. They found Trey McBride in an outbreaking route. And you could say, well, some of that was against the second unit in that second series, but that interception was so bad. It's got everyone talking because that was too reminiscent of last season's post-bye against the Seahawks. He had a horrible one against the Patriots that got called back. There was he had a bad one against the Panthers. He had another bad one against the Seahawks. It was week in and week out post-bye. Another week, another terrible Kyler Murray interception. Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, they throw a ball in the middle of the field. Someone makes a big play. It's not the point. It was too familiar sight for Kyler Murray to be throwing the ball directly to the other team. And as I mentioned before, all those times before that he did it post-bye week. And so there is this conversation of like, oh, it's just the preseason. Well, no, it's not. Because with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, all the elites of the elites, Jaden Daniels, Matthew Stafford, we've seen them. And that is an anomaly when they throw a horrendous interception. Kyler, we've seen this happen far too often. So as much as I want to give Kyler Murray a pass, I can't because I have to drill it down to everyone that cannot happen, especially in the red zone, where Kyler throws a ball so confidently that I think we're just being honest here. Kyler went post-game and said a lot of words and didn't say much of anything to defend the interception because I don't think he wanted to say the words, I didn't see him. Because that's the only reason why you throw that ball directly to the other team. If you do see that guy, then it's just a horribly thrown ball because it looked like more of a dagger route from Marvin Harrison Jr. You throw that ball to the pylon where it's either Marv's or it's out of bounds. That's the rule that you do as a quarterback. And Kyler didn't do that. It was atrocious, man. And so for me, it really took down how I thought about Kyler Murray because 7 of 8, 98 yards, sure. No touchdowns and a really bad red zone interception. What was your take on it?
Yeah, I watched it back a little bit. It was like a shoot route. They had like a condensed formation. And I saw some like tweets on Twitter and whether you talk about Kyler Murray getting early access to Call of Duty or when you click the wrong button on Madden. My thought process is this. Like, I'm happy it happened now. I'm happy that he played in the preseason. How many times have we seen in the last couple of years Cliff Kingsbury or even like Gannon in the first couple of years not play Kyler Murray and him go off to a slow start? Like, if you think about that Bills game last year, if they don't get off to that slow start, remember they came back and almost won that game against the Bills week 1. You wonder how that would probably linger on for the rest of the season. My second thing is for Kyler, he patted the ball twice. So already you have hesitation on where to throw the football. Like run it or give it to Trey McBride or use your legs. I wanted to see him maybe use a little more legs last night, but again, preseason football. I'm glad he played in that game last night too, but the one thing you made too, you're talking about how you got to aim for that pylon. My thing is, if you're going to miss it, you threw it right to him. You got to miss it outside, out of bounds. You got to miss it. Like, we play a lot of Madden. We played a lot of football in the past. You got to lead him and let Marvin Harrison make a play on that. So it's puzzling, but again, you just hope that that doesn't linger in his mind, I guess, throughout preseason and when the games start. But those are the type of plays where, you compare him to Brock Purdy, you compare him to Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold in this division. They're not making those type of plays. So in a make or break year, like, yes, you're the great Kyler that we've all seen. And sure, if the DB makes a great play, give him it. Or if Marvin Harrison Jr. drops the ball, here, like, it's okay, Marv. Let's come back and respond. But for you to throw it right to him, it was just kind of a dagger it's just a dagger in your heart because it was such a good drive. I mean, they're driving down the field. Marvin Harrison
They probably
Jr.
don't go out in the second series.
Yeah.
They probably when get the touchdown, they're done.
Which I'm glad they stayed another drive. I wish I would have saw points, but again, I'm glad they responded off of that. But the Marvin Harrison Jr., the 15-yard in route that they had, with the under defender as well too. But I don't know. I try not to overreact because it's preseason, but it literally, I got flashbacks from Seattle when I saw him do that, because I saw him do that twice or three times in that game, and they lost that football game. So I don't know. I don't overreact about it, but I would definitely love to see improvement, from that standpoint.
Well, for me, it's just like, I thought Drew Petzing called a really good game. Once again, the running game looks good. The offensive line looked good. The only thing we're talking about offensively, once again, is why is Kyler Murray not being consistent? Because we know that the valleys with Kyler are so low. And that's what you saw last night with that interception. But also the highs of the highs they're so great, where he's
so high.
7 for 8. Like, literally, man, the only thing that went south last night was Kyler Murray throwing a ball to the other team. I think it's very clear. Kyler Murray just did not see that defender, and it was far too reminiscent of post-bye last year, where the discussion came into a really heated debate of, like, is it Petzing? Is it Kyler? I think last night showed you once again that, yes, Petzing has his shortcomings, and I know sometimes I'm perceived as anti-Kyler because he's got me blocked on all social media platforms.
Me too. I don't know why. You and I have been the ultimate vouchers of Kyler Murray these last couple of years. When people were like, "Oh, they should move on from him," like 2 or 3 years ago, we're like, "No, we've seen him. We've seen him in 2021, that whole stretch where he was like the best player in football. We've seen him in the beginning of last year. We saw him a couple years ago too during COVID. Like, we've seen so many years of this, and then we get blocked on social media. It's like, come on, Kyler Murray. And now it's like, okay, now make or break year. You block us on social media, we're going to be harsh on you for this." I also saw an angle too where he wasn't looking at Marv, which I don't know if he tends to, like, maybe he was trying to look off some safety and kind of do some cool stuff with not looking. Just throw the damn ball, Kyler. Like, throw the damn ball, miss left, miss out of bounds, or make Marvin Harrison Jr. make a play. You try not to overreact, but it's just something we've seen so often where it's like, I'm a little worried, but I'm not worried because it's preseason.
No, I get it. The other thing that makes sense, or the thing that's interesting, is, like, this is why I wonder if Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Connell, and not Sean McVay, but to an extent Sean McVay because he kind of fits in there, or Mike McDaniel, would ever pick Kyler Murray to be their quarterback over what they have, not Sean McVay with Matt Stafford, because Kyler will not just run the play, right? He's going to do his own thing a little bit, and he's really good at that sometimes, but it can be a little haywire, whereas Brock Purdy, you're not getting some of the physical things, the physical traits of him, but you're going to get ball, point A, ball to point B, and he's going to run the play exceptionally. It just, last night was just far too reminiscent of that bad interception where Kyler, and it's a constant reminder that the highs are so high and the valleys are so low with Kyler, man. It's just, that cannot happen in the regular season. We saw it all last year post-bye, and it made us really get in this heated discussion of, like, who is it, Petzing or Kyler? That interception last night showed you most of the blame goes on Kyler Murray. And yes, I know it's preseason. I get it, man. But that cannot happen. And we have to be hard on him now because it's not Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, any one of those guys, where if they make that mistake, you're like, that's not a characteristic of those guys. What happened last night was a characteristic of Kyler, and it's something that has to be coached out of them, or this team will not be a playoff team. It's just as simple as it is.
Yeah. And I think you talk about Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts, and I know the whole term in the NFL is the game manager, and it gets kind of a negative connotation, but for me, it's like I'm on the more positive side of a game manager because I know they're not going to screw things up. I know Brock Purdy's not going to throw that interception. I know Jalen Hurts is probably going to run the ball or throw it out of bounds on that situation. I know J.J. McCarthy's kind of being compared where, you got such a loaded defense. You got a lot of weapons around you. Just give him the ball. Like, that's why Will Howard and Ohio State won last year. Will Howard didn't screw up. He didn't throw any interceptions down the stretch. So you almost hope that for Kyler Murray. But then you see the spurts where he's running and he's running around, and most quarterbacks like Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts would get sacked, and he still stays alive, and that's what keeps bringing you in. But in a year like this, where, obviously I cover a lot of college football, it's very good quarterback class. A lot of taller 6'4", 6'3" guys, a lot of tough guys, a lot of leaders. And then you start to think about some of those rookies that, Gannon brought in, that Monty brought in. They're going to start getting contracts here soon. So it's like you play that into factor. So when does the window start to crumble, start to shrink a little bit for Kyler, and you start to move on? Again, we're not overreacting, but I do think it's time for us, Arizona Cardinal fans and people that follow this team, you got to be harsh on them. Because, this is the beginning of the season. So other than that, bro, I think as a Cardinals fan, I think it was satisfying to watch Jacoby Brissett kind of drive the field a little bit instead of Clayton Tune and Desmond Ridder the last couple of years.
All right. No, let's immediately. First off, great transition. And I love listen, I would wait till after the show, but that was so good. It's time to be harsh on Kyler, even if you love him. There's a thing called tough love. My dad gave it to me all the time. It's like, you can tell him last night wasn't okay. And I just wish Kyler, maybe not, man. Maybe it's bad that Kyler goes in a press conference and is too honest and says, I just didn't see the guy. Because I think there was a bird's eye view where Kyler throws the ball, and I think it was a defensive back. I think they might have been in a nickel set, and he was in like a hook zone, but it kind of felt like he was covering for the guy that was in the flat, and the guy that was in the flat passed off his guy in the flat because he knew he had a hook zone, and that guy went after the quarterback, and that sped up Kyler. I don't think Kyler ever saw the guy in the hook zone who wasn't even supposed to be defending Marvin Harrison Jr., who's supposed to be getting the guy who was in the left side of the route, whatever. Closer to Kyler, that guy. I don't think he was even supposed to be there, and I don't think Kyler saw him, and that just can't happen anymore. But yeah, man, let's go over to the Jacoby Brissett side. I was at training camp last year, and I think I told you this. I was like, dude, Clayton Tune and Desmond Ridder freaking suck. And it's so different. Clayton Tune still sucks. He is not a very good quarterback in the National Football League. And so it was clear they had to make an adjustment there. And one of the things that is such a breath air about Jacoby Brissett, whereas I saw enough last night against a team that was a Super Bowl, that wasn't the Super Bowl defense, but that was the Super Bowl depth on the defense. And that says something to me where if Kyler, and it's fair, that's Kyler's MO a little bit. He gets a little dinged up just like James Conner. If Kyler misses 3 games for a hamstring, or 2 games for an ankle sprain, or 2 games for a concussion, it is not man overboard. And it's so good to be able to say that, where Jacoby Brissett ain't going to win you any games, but he ain't going to lose you any games either. Can he score 20 points with the offense that they have, and the defense has got to lock in for a game and keep the opposing team, and maybe even get a cheap touchdown, pick 6, or set them up in really good field positioning and carry them that way? Cardinals have a real one, Jacoby Brissett, man. In 10 years as well, another thing in that backup position, he hasn't not seen, he's seen a lot in his time. And we've had backup quarterbacks, so Colt McCoy was that way, Clayton Tune wasn't, and which one was successful? So really like what Jacoby Brissett did last night. I'll let you take him there.
I just don't think he had any throws that you were in jeopardy of him having an interception last night, which was cool to see. You saw him drive the field, and I know his majority of his yards came from Emari Demercado, who's just been a phenomenal player just to have in the rotation, who's going to be a quality third running back. He's going to make the team. He'll be a special teams guy. I'm a big fan of him. I remember watching him TCU Michigan in that stadium, that he gets drafted, and he performed that preseason. Unbelievable. But to your point about Brissett, I do think, because you look back, the last real veteran they've had was Colt McCoy in that room. And I think you look back at Kyler's best years, him having a veteran quarterback behind him in that room, it matters. I think it does matter. Someone to kind of rely on when things go tough to kind of, bring you down, or, hey, I see this. This is what I see in the offense, him being in the league for 10 years. I think it matters. I mean, Josh Dobbs was the backup a couple years ago. Then it was him and Clayton Tune, had his worst year, probably, Kyler, of his career last season. So I think that matters. I think it's cool as Cardinals fans. Like, we'll see if Brissett plays this next week. But I think it's nice, okay, like, if Kyler were to go down, like, we have a reliable quarterback that can hand the ball off to James Conner and Trey Benson and, deliver some quick passes. I don't know if he's got the deep ball accuracy that we were used to seeing him maybe in his heydays with the Patriots or, the Colts or wherever he used to play back in the day. But I think it's just a reliable, another asset that the Cardinals did, kind of an underrated free agency signing that not all people knew about. And you probably watched preseason and you're like, wait, Jacoby Brissett plays for the Cardinals? Yes, he does. And he had a touchdown to our guy that we've been praising for the past year or so before anybody has. And now everyone wants to be Xavier Weaver fans, but I'll digress.
Yeah. I want to get to Xavier Weaver, and then we're going to get to the running back spot. There was just a lot of bright spots in this game. Really, the lone negative was Kyler Murray and Clayton Tune, and one of those we kind of expected.
Which Kyler's other throws were great. I mean, Trey McBride, great placement. Great. MHJ, you're like, oh my gosh, like, is there chemistry finally on something that we've been wanting? Ooh. Michael Wilson, you hear on the broadcast with Sam Acho and Dave Pasch that he could be a 1,000-yard receiver, which I'm like, yes. You got Dortch on these fly sweeps. You got Benson getting screen passes. So, again, it's cool to see the dynamics and the versatility, and maybe Petzing open up the playbook, which, side note, him having a little piece of paper as his playbook, does he usually do that, or is that just preseason? Because I want my offensive coordinator to have the big-ass, like, laminated sheet when he's calling plays. You know what I mean? Like, you look over over Ben Johnson, Andy Reid, like, they have these huge things, but sorry, to your point, if you want to talk.
Well, you have to think. We have to think with Andy Reid, and who's the other one you said?
Oh, Ben Johnson.
Well, okay, well, maybe not Ben Johnson, but Andy Reid. Like, Andy Reid's the head coach. Maybe he's got like the defensive and offensive plays on there.
Yeah,
he's got a little bit more than other people. I thought Petzing was pretty good last night. We'll see if that carries over in the Superdome in a couple of weeks here. Xavier Weaver, man. I mean, Greg Dortch is a good player. I'm always going to take the taller, younger, cheaper player. And I wouldn't be upset if Xavier Weaver took not the second set of wide receiver spots. So it's right now it's Michael, Marv, and Zay. Right behind them, Xavier Weaver being like that next guy up if someone gets injured. I like Greg Dortch, man, but he's 5'4" at the end of the day. He's limited in what he can do. He's probably not going to be here next year. He costs not much, but a little bit more than Xavier Weaver. And I just think Xavier Weaver's got something there that this team has got to figure out a way to use. Get him in some jet sweeps. I think he's a twitchy individual. I think he's a fast player. Or he's got some good straight line speed. Throw him on a fly route. I mean, we could be quick on him because, we've been touting this guy for a while now, but I just think he has earned a bigger role in the offense. And I don't think Greg Dortch is doing himself any favors, fumbling the ball in kickoff return, which also I think Xavier Weaver could do that as well.
Undrafted free agent, Colorado, another Colorado wide receiver to add on to Wester. And, Jimmy Horn Jr. had a great outing with Carolina. But I think if you have an undrafted free agent performing the way he is as a number 2, like, I mean, you hope that the undrafted free agent, the Simmons kid, the D tackle ends up panning out and makes this roster because he's like 350 pounds too. But I just think Weaver's more twitchier. I don't think Zay Jones is bad. I think he's going to be kind of that reliable possession guy who, is smart. He's been in the league for a long time. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if Weaver kind of gets in that rotation where you start to see MHJ, Michael Wilson. Then you also kind of see Weaver in the slot too. But I mean, he played well last night. It was a good touchdown, good momentum for the Arizona Cardinals. And like I said, not a whole lot to say about him, but it's cool to see an undrafted guy perform well because he's a cheap receiver. You have him in the rotation, a receiver group that's not as deep as we wanted maybe heading into the year, but you kind of got to trust the staff that they didn't go elsewhere. They decided to stay in-house. And, it was good to see him score last night.
Well, it also, like, if those guys make the roster, Elijah Simmons and Xavier Weaver, it says a lot about Monty Austin for its ability to be able to find guys that weren't drafted. Let's switch it over really quickly to the running backs, and then we'll go a little bit to the defensive side of the ball because I want to talk about the pass rush. Speaking of Elijah Simmons, don't draft James Conner in fantasy football this year. I think, like, yeah, maybe he's going to score a lot of touchdowns. I still think obviously he's going to be the goal line guy, but maybe don't draft James Conner or Trey Benson unless you're banking on James Conner to get that patented miss 6 games, miss 4 games with an ankle injury, or hurts his knee for an extended period of time. This is going to be a running back by committee. Trey Benson looked like we hoped he had looked this time last year. Explosive. I think he still has a little bit of trouble hitting the holes or hitting the gaps in that offensive line. But Conner, I mean, man, still at 30 years old, pushing dudes over and like begging to be hit and take, contact. But Trey Benson last night, it's going to be a little bit of Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery this season, where you got your speed, your change of pace, speed back, and a dude that is going to run you over with James Conner. You want to fill in the box? We'll throw James Conner in there. You want to go a little bit of wide? You want to be, go dime, nickel packages? We're going to throw Trey Benson in there, and you're going to have to show us that you can catch him and then tackle him. So Trey Benson last night looked really good, man. I don't know if you're a fantasy football guy, but I think James Conner's starting to fall. Well, no, I mean, I mean, if you're a fantasy football guy, I know you are, but he's starting, he's a 6th round running back for me now. If you can get him in the 5th round, maybe, but I don't know if this guy's going to be on the field, and that is probably the right way for him to be used, right?
Yeah, it's such a 2-back league right now. I mean, everyone's trying to replicate what the Lions are doing. You see the Ravens with Justice Hill and Derrick Henry. And if I love James Conner. Like, you mentioning Trey Benson was the first thing I had on my notes because it's alarming because they're 2 different types of runners, right? James Conner is more of that patient when the hole's not there. He can kind of create his own, or he can kind of just run through people, which is great. And he can break through, and he can still run past some defenders at how old he is. I love James Conner. He should be the running back 1 of this team. But I do think it does him a service in this offense when you can kind of set back the reps a little bit because he's taking a lot of blows. So if you have a confident Trey Benson, that's what I saw last night, was a confident Trey Benson where maybe the hole was open like you could fit a car in it, or if it wasn't, he was hitting it. And to see him in the screen game as well, too, that's something we didn't see last year. It literally looked like Florida State his last season where he kind of broke out and people thought he was going to go, maybe late 1st round, early 2nd round of the Cowboys or whatever because they needed a running back instead of the Cardinals get him in the 3rd. But he was a huge bright spot last night where you go, okay, I know James Conner's the guy moving forward. I know he's a leader, but I want to see Trey Benson in this offense because I think if you can have 2 running backs like that, you had Amari DeMarcado on the back end. Like that's just another other toy that Kyler Murray can mess with. And then you think about the speed options, the read options that those 2 can do together. But I don't know, maybe Trey Benson did some work in the offseason, Ben, because I thought he looked explosive coming out of the holes last night. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it should be a 2-back committee, maybe 60-40. But I just think it's kind of situational where if it's 3rd and short, of course, put Conner in. 4th and short, sure, put him in. But you're telling me that you could have a set with Trey Benson out wide, maybe in the slot as a receiving back. I just think it kind of opens up your eyes. Okay, like I know why the Cardinals didn't maybe do as much in the offseason as we wanted to offensively. If this guy can become confident, you think about Trey Benson, you think about Marvin Harrison Jr., like year 2 jump for those 2. If they can they both looked like they were just playing football last night. It was great to see. And Trey Benson was like my ultimate. If I had to say an MVP last night, like a big takeaway, Benson was like, whoa, like this could be fun.
And when I bring up the fantasy football thing, because obviously at the end of the day, who really cares about that? Because it's fantasy football at the end of the day. Real football, it's the exact way they need to use James Conner at 30 years old. You get more injured as you get older. You don't get less injured. So if you can turn those 80-20 backfield last year into 60-40, 55-45, which I think would probably be the correct ratio, it would be perfect for Conner's health when you have to use him in the postseason potentially. And we're not wondering what this offense is going to look like without Conner. Last year in the Panthers game, when James Conner went out, they couldn't move the football. And then the very next game against the Rams, he wasn't in that game, played for like the first couple of snaps. He didn't play the rest of that game. and the offense looked atrocious. This offense needs to look better when James Conner is not in the fold. So if Trey Benson's going to take that next leap like he did last night, and I think you saw him play a little faster, not because he just got fast out of nowhere. Like you had mentioned, we saw it at Florida State. It's now that the game is starting to slow down for him, he doesn't have to, wait for the right. He knows exactly which hole he's going to go through. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's that confidence that I thought you saw with Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, if we're talking about you extensively last night and we didn't see a lot of you, it's probably for a bad reason. Like Kyler, big thing, problem. Like we haven't talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. because he only caught two balls, I think it was. But you and I both aren't saying, well, yeah, it's because he looked kind of slow out there. It looked like he didn't really know what he was doing. Trey Benson as well. Let's go over the defensive side of the ball, man. I was skeptical a little bit of the Cardinals pass rush because I didn't want to just crown them being awesome without a JJ Watt, a TJ Watt, a big name blue chip pass rusher right next to them. However, no Calais Campbell, no Josh Sweat last night. The running game was a little worrisome, a little. Without those two guys in it, that does make sense because there's no Walter Nolan either. But Jordan Birch looked really good. I mean, he was pushing dudes into the quarterback. Darius Robinson looked really good. Even Zaven Collins didn't look lost like he normally looks like. I am starting to feel more confident about that Cardinals pass rush. And you remember what Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rawlis did with this pass rush last year. I think we can take that off of maybe not being a strength, but it's no longer a clear weakness that you can expose week in and week out. What say you?
I think Birch is kind of that mystery guy where he's 6'4", I have it written down here, 6'4", 280. So he's not your fast edge rusher like Josh Sweat, but man, he's powerful. So you wonder like, hey, Rallis, could you see a set where you got Josh Sweat and you got Jordan Birch inside alongside Calais Campbell? Maybe you go 5 down linemen, or maybe you kind of mix it up to more speed inside. He was a bright spot for me. Yes, you kind of look at the stats if you're one of those stats people and say, well, they only had 1 sack last night. I think the interior push that you saw on the defensive line was a lot better. And I think it matters because you talked about the run defense, which they've always had no real issues on stopping the run. It's been more kind of the pass. But I think if you can kind of collapse the pocket immediately and make that quarterback not step up in the pocket, kind of get off of his rhythm, I think that's something that it's not a stat sheet statistic, but I think it makes quarterbacks uncomfortable. And I know it was only Gardner Minshew last night. And I think part of the offense, the defense too, I don't really harsh on, was you didn't expect to start in your own 15 after the first play when you fumble like that. So it kind of like throws you off because you kind of have this whole 15 play script. Like, okay, we're going to kick it down there and, we're going to have inside the 20 on the Kansas City Chiefs 20-yard line, and Patrick Mahomes has to go the full field. Instead, he's got the ball on the 20. So you're like, okay, well, we haven't faced anybody at all. We're facing the defending AFC champions, even though they don't have their whole starting unit out. It's still Patrick Mahomes. Like, and some of these corners, I mean, Max Melton and Will Johnson. I mean, this is the first reps that you're getting the entire season. You got to go against Mahomes, who made a hell of a throw, like back shoulder fade.
Oh my God,
no one could catch that, but the receiver who made a great grab. And Max Melton, that's how you're supposed to cover that kind of route. You want to, kind of upfield shoulder, and he made a hell of a throw there. But yeah, I think there's definitely some upside. You do wonder, like, with a Josh Sweat, like how much of an upgrade he is on the outside versus Zaven Collins, and how much of an influence will he make on the offensive line standpoint, because you can't leave him one-on-one. So if the guard goes over there, how will Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais look? But all in all, not too mad about what I saw last night. I think Birch and Collier were two guys that, Collier specifically, like, he's kind of fighting for that roster spot because Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones, the two defensive linemen they brought in last year, are kind of looking on the outside in, might not even make the team, which if you're Monty Ossenfort, you kind of got to eat that bullet and just move on. Like, hey, we made a bad decision. We all make bad decisions in life. But this group I'm looking real forward to. It's something about having a deep defensive line that we haven't really seen since, JJ Watt in that defensive line group when they went 7-0.
Jalen Jones.
Yeah. I can't think about an interior though. One? Yeah, he was. But I can't even think about who was interior on that team. It was more the pressure of having Jones and JJ. Was Calais?
I can't really think about that either.
Was on that team.
No, Calais left in 2013. Yeah. So that was a pretty wide gap. But no. He left in 2015. 2016. He left in 2016, I think it was. That was that final year where the Cardinals weren't very good after going to the NFC Championship game. I want to talk about the corners really quickly, and then we can end it there. But oh man, dude, Max Melton. I mean, I don't know. Does it say anything to you at least that Patrick Mahomes threw the back shoulder fade, which I can't say anything to Max Melton. It was a beautifully thrown ball. Jameel Douglas, who I do a Cardinals Locked On show with, who is a former NFL offensive lineman, was like, that is the type of throw that if you're Max Melton, you don't even hang your head. You just look at the quarterback and you're like, yep, not much I could do about that. But do you think it says anything to you that they picked on Max Melton there and not Will Johnson? Because Will Johnson is 6'2" and a long player. Like, you typically would go after the rookie, right? I think the only thing you would say is like, well, maybe you want to go up against the harder cornerback because it's preseason and why not? You want to test your guys. But they didn't pick on Will Johnson there, and they could have right after he just got a pass interference penalty, which I actually didn't think was that bad. I thought it was a little ticky-tack. Do you think it says anything about that? That they went to Max Melton and not Will Johnson on that?
You had Will Johnson as your boundary corner. Usually when teams put their best corner as their boundary corner, because usually like the number one wide receiver, you'd rather throw to your boundary versus the field side, unless you're Patrick Mahomes and you throw that kind of pass, which you can't even be mad at Max Melton. Like, even for whoever caught that football, like for him to catch that ball was a hell of a grab. And it was just kind of an effortless play from his spot. But it was funny earlier. You talked about how, if you don't talk about a certain receiver, you don't talk about certain offensive guys, that usually means like they screwed up. We haven't even brought up Will Johnson yet. A lot of people are talking about Will Johnson because the stats. He had 4 targets, 0 receptions, and he had that one holding call, which in college you get away with all the time. In the pros, it's okay. Him and Denzel Burke both did, which Denzel Burke, by the way, he's a hell of a tackler, and I actually met him in person. He's a lot taller than you think. So if you wonder what his ability can be, as a backup, because now this cornerback room looks a lot slimmer with Starling Thomas, and I still do wonder. I still wonder though if they're going to go out and sign a veteran, because I know there's still like Stephon Gilmore. I know there's Asante Samuel, but this team just isn't like that. But you do wonder, like, if they eventually would be like, okay, like, are we one more injury away? If Darren Hall continues to have a good preseason and he's kind of on the lineup, are we one injury away from going out and signing us an older guy in that room, or keep it young? But I think definitely some optimism for this group. I'm a little worried just because I haven't really been around. We haven't been around a dominant cornerback DB room. It feels like in forever for the Arizona Cardinals. It just feels like we haven't seen that yet. Now, if the pass rush comes to be what we think it's going to be, then it's okay. But I'm still a little hesitant, just a young DB cornerback crew heading into this year. But last night was a plus for sure. Just a lot of good receivers that they're going to face in the division. That's all.
Is there a concern for you? Because there is a little bit of a concern for me. Is there a concern for you, even though in that first preseason game, everyone looked pretty good, maybe outside of Elijah Jones, who didn't, and I thought Denzel Burke got a little worked last night, but he's a rookie, so you kind of give him a little bit of a pass there.
Yeah.
But the starting corners, Max Melton, Will Johnson, Garrett Williams, that is a third-year player, a second-year player, and a first-year player. Are you worried at least a little bit of the youth of the cornerback room, or just that other quarterbacks might pick on them or feel good about picking on them? Or are you like, it doesn't really matter that much because they got big brothers and Jalen Thompson, DTR, and Budda Baker to back them up?
I'm a little worried because it's not the fact that you have the pass rush, but it's going to be those number one receivers, the Jackson Smith and Jigba's. Like, when it's the one-on-one, they have really good ball making abilities and playmaking abilities that not a lot of receivers do. I said ball making. That was pause, dude. Damn, that was horrible. But I think you're always worrisome just because as a Cardinals fan, you want to set low expectations for such a young group. I think any type of young group you have, and when a coach says like, hey, we've seen this in the past with Gannon, like, this group looks great. Like, I feel good about this group. And then the season happens and it's like, okay, they were great, but they weren't to the expectations you were talking to them about. He's been super on about this cornerback group. And you think about Seattle, what they have going on, kind of a young DB group that has turned out to become that next Legion of Boom in an elite group. I think it's possible. I do think the one outlier, though, would be Will Johnson. If Will Johnson does become that dominant CB1, then this group has a lot of potential. But I love the athletic ability from Max Melton. I love the aggressiveness, the play recognition. He had a good third down tackle. Him and, Denzel Burke had a bunch of tackles too, even though coverage-wise he's not the greatest. But I think the red zone, like those type of plays with Max Melton and Will Johnson there, that's when we're really going to know this cornerback crew if they're for real. It's going to be the red zone, because if they can be better on the red zone defense, then you already know, like, offensively, it's a big momentum switch that they can turn around and hopefully have an advantage there too. What do you think? Are you worried?
I'm a little worried. I got to be honest with you. Last night, I felt better about it because I thought all guys looked pretty good. And if you're going to go up against the twos and threes of a team, might as well be a team who's, won back-to-back Super Bowls and nearly went three-peated. And I thought everyone looked pretty good. I thought it was a very clean night. It all just comes back to that Kyler Murray pick. Kyler doesn't throw that pick. We're talking about it being an A++ night all around. But overall, man, those corners, they're going to get tested in the beginning. But if the pass rush can get to the quarterback and Buddha and Jalen and heck, man, we didn't even get to him. We probably won't get to him. Kitten Crawford and Jalen Thompson can all be serviceable over the top. You're going to feel good about this defense being top 13 next year, top 14, definitely top half of the NFL. But I think overall it was a pretty good night, man. Last question. You feel better or worse about the season as a whole post game one?
I'd say I feel the same. I mean, I don't think preseason, like, obviously there's the interception that we'll get a lot of headlines on Monday, and I'm sure, Middlecoff might bring it up. Me. A lot of people are going to talk about it for a while, and you wonder, which we didn't even talk about this too, Thursday, the joint practice with the Broncos. I look more forward to the joint 100%. Practices than I do the games, which I wish they somehow like live streamed it or they had it on NFL Network or something. They don't show the joint practices. All we can see is like the reporters and the media people that are out there. And remember that route from last year with Dortch, the one-on-one against the Colts. And Marvin Harrison Jr. looked great. That's what I look forward to as a competitor, and seeing what I can take away from those type of things. Because those are like one-on-one. They don't tackle the quarterback, but that's the most real-life game situation, especially the Cardinals going into their house, the Broncos' house, to do this. Like, I think it's going to be a fun event to watch on Thursday. I just feel I don't feel any bad. I don't feel any good about this team. I definitely feel like, okay, like, it's cool to see the Arizona Cardinals on the field. It's cool to have football back. I don't feel worse about the team. If anything, like I said, I'm glad Kyler threw that interception now versus later. The Marvin Harrison Jr. 15-yard catch was sweet. Trey Benson was awesome. Connor had that third down conversion. Like, I think there's a lot of positives to bring from it, but it's preseason at the end of the day. I'm not going to keep my hopes high and say that they're going to win an extra game. They're going to lose an extra game from this, especially with how bad the Saints look today. So hopefully we can just win that game. I mean, Shuck threw it at pick six. Rattler looked like he could barely stand up.
He did throw a touchdown, though. He did throw a touchdown, which, by the way, I'm this Saints offensive line against the Cardinals. If they don't have 3 or 4 sacks that game, it might be a failure, because that Saints offensive line looked horrible today. But no, I feel the same about this team. I know it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I don't feel any different or worse. And if you're a Cardinals fan, maybe you feel one way or the other. You can have your opinion, but I don't overreact too much. What about you? I'm not overreacting. I'm just pointing out, hey, that Kyler thing, it's still there. And so I know people are saying, like, I'd rather have it happen in the preseason. And I know this is going to be obvious what I'm about to say, but like, I'd rather not happen at all, because then it showed me, okay, you matured a little bit past that. Thanks, man, for the 40 minutes of your time. Of course, bro. It's so funny. We were talking to him like, like maybe 30 minutes, like 40 minutes or so, just because people, but I think people would just want football talk. Like, we got to capitalize football talk. Yeah. Football is here. Like, it's cool to see that. My last thing for you, if you had to give a game ball, to anyone on the Cardinals after this preseason game, who are you giving a game ball? Trey Benson or Jacoby Brissett. If I'm giving a game ball, I got like longevity in the game matters. Probably Trey Benson and Jacoby Brissett. I just slice it in half. I don't even give out 2 balls because it's preseason. And then I think I grab a garbage can and I throw it at Clayton Tune.
So bad. So
He's
bad.
so bad at football.
He's so bad. But hey, he'll make 6 figures being on our practice squad. So
I know, dude. What is it? I'm saying he's so bad, and he's gonna work 6 years in the practice squad business and be perfectly fine for the rest of his freaking life.
My game ball goes to 2 players, Keaton Crawford and Chad Ryland, because I did place $10 on the Cardinals last night when they were plus 250. They were down 14-3, I think. It was before the Mari DiMercado touchdown, and that pick actually saved my ass. I tend to win like 23. I'm not a huge big-time gambler spending hundreds of thousands of bucks, but it was preseason. I'm like, you know what? I want Chipotle tonight. Let's just put $10 on it. And they paid for my Chipotle. So that Keaton Crawford interception, and then Chad Ryland.
You were sweating out. You were sweating out a preseason game.
Well, dude, I'm telling you, if who was their third string last night? The Chiefs. Oh, it was Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi would have been. Which, by the way, still sucks.
He does.
Still sucks.
But if he would have been in the entire second half versus the 4th guy they brought in, who was worse from South Dakota State, I think I lose that bet. But luckily, Bailey Zappi was in. I think he threw that interception. It was him or Minshew, who knows, which that's another case. Like the Chiefs, like, yes, you have Mahomes, but if he goes out, which I don't think he will go out because it's Patrick Mahomes, Minshew in that quarterback room is just awful. So I think we got to be a little happy that our back is better than theirs.
Yes. Holy cow. If Bailey Zappi and Clayton Tune were like, I don't know, dude, we just put them, like, let's just say the Cardinals and Chiefs played each other and they were both down to their 3rd string quarterbacks. Holy hell, dude. I'd much rather watch grass grow. That was just those 2 guys. Bailey Zappi, you know, it's funny. You said at the beginning of the show, like, oh, Jacoby Brissett plays for the Chiefs now. For me, I was like, oh, Gardner Minshew's on the Chiefs. I didn't even know that. Anyways,
that's what's so funny about preseason is seeing all these random players that you see still trying to vie for a spot, like Tony Jefferson getting a pick with the Chargers. Like he might make the roster, still playing in the NFL. Like he's another one of those players you're like, man, could he come back to the Cardinals? Like they were on that NFC Championship team with the DB core. That was probably the last time. Earlier, we were talking about a DB core that was so dynamic. That's got to be the best defensive back core that I've seen. Since I've been on with Johnson, with Gerard Powers, Peterson, Matthew, like that team was sick. So, but man, I'm excited for the Cardinals, man. Keep doing the Ben Garcia. Hit that subscribe button, people. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button.
I was trying to look. I was gonna go text Tony Jefferson. I was like, because I didn't see that he got a, he whatever.
Hall of Fame game.
I was like,
yeah.
I was gonna hit him up and be like, Tony, my guy. Anyways. Appreciate you guys tuning into the Ben Garcia show. For my guy Jackson Groff, myself, Benjamin Garcia, I will still see you guys tomorrow. I think I'm going to get this video up actually earlier than I thought. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Follow my guy Jackson Groff on all social media platforms at The Groff Show. If you are looking for anything college football, this guy does it, man. And I think he does it better than at least anyone his age or around his age, because maybe people like Joel Klatt, I guess, are a little better. Sorry, Jackson. You're not Joel Klatt yet. Give it 2 more years. With that being said, for Jackson, for myself, appreciate you guys. Have a hell of a week.